Are you thinking of anything in particular? I mean, I think it just kind of all goes together.
I get to watch a lot of TV. I get to see everything. Then I get to talk about love. That's fun. Otherwise,
I do meditate because I'm stepping into my Pisces well, I'm going to the mountains. Yeah. Oh, it's booked. I bought my plane ticket. Yeah, he's going to be there.
yeah, it's a really great one problem at a time. Eventually I will deal with the job issue, but one problem at a time. Or they might just go back to sleep.
15 degrees Oh yeah, because it goes back. Oh, right. You say you don't have any cancer.
I see numbers. Honestly, for a while I saw them so often I can. Okay, sometimes it's like I know it's illuminating. That's why I'm looking at the clock. So I don't trust that. It's about but I think if I see it other than on the clock, I get similar. Oh, this whole week, like if I talk about math and stuff like that, also like talking about okay, that's I'm not president.
It's cool, nothing to do.
Right. Well, exactly. Like that's what.
That's cool. I don't know.
So is that how you started with the top?
But I'm picky. I'm picky. You're trying to get in there. You're trying to get in there. I already seen it. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I'm saying that. Yeah, so they're kind of talking.
Oh, yeah, totally. Mine's Mercury. I have Mercury by 10. Yeah. Yeah, it's in Gemini and my 10. I have my Venus in Gemini. No, it's at home there. No.
All right, does everybody want to take a seat real quick so we can get this rolling?
Whoops, sorry, I'm sorry.
I'm going to take my king seat. Yes, you are. Yes, many times. Let's get you two like in here.
Sophia.
Hey, Sophie. I don't know what to say. No, I'm just kidding. Always when it comes to like the end of these things, I always feel like it's always good to have some fun, open talk, to reflect on things and for people to kind of connect with one another, to truly kind of feel each other out about where things are, because when events happen and people speak and there's subjects, sometimes those subjects go into different places, sometimes they go into other universes, which I think is really fun. And I always find that the most interesting stuff happens in a circle like this. So, I don't know if Michael or Sophia here wants to say anything, you know, or Sophia, you know, you make me say Sophia.
I think that I was just talking to, what's your name?
Rachel.
Rachel, and we were kind of like talking about how it's so hard to make friends these days. Not make friends, but just have people around you that you vibe with.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to explain that I think we've all tried to take a hold of that and kind of go within ourselves. And once we figure out what's in ourselves that we want, it will take us to those people. So, me here right now, all of us here right now. Why did we come here? Because we vibe with
What
all
are you
of this.
holding?
I got this from this lovely lady.
Wow.
I got gifts from these two. That's not the only one I got. I got this and this.
Oh, wow.
Is this selenite?
Just got gifted.
I'm abundant today.
Mine.
Hey,
Nice try though.
I'll be honest, I am
Supercharged.
a crystal reach hard ass.
called green dogs.
What does the peace dealer got to say?
I feel like this is a wish come true.
I agree.
Oh, that's
Hard work is
nice.
paying off, so I'm grateful for that.
What was your wish?
My wish was to, it's funny, it's like, it's different than what I expected, but my wish was like to manifest my tribe, to manifest
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
my work, and to be comfortable connecting with like real people. But I expected to look a certain way, and I ended up manifesting like what I needed. You know, like I feel comfortable being vulnerable and like expressing myself, and it wasn't as terrifying as I made it out to be, which is humbling, cool, awesome,
A relief.
grateful.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for it, thankfully. But yeah, it's a wish come true, for
What's
sure.
the difference being in front of a group of people from when you're doing your live talks? Cause you are just like, there's not an ounce of fear there.
Yeah.
You're just like on.
I know, before, Craig and I were like, should we sit down, Mike, and be like, what do you do before? What do we need to do?
Do we need a desk with a mic? Do we need?
To like,
I was like, do I need to get a hammer? Like,
You need to get the bandana.
true,
Probably a cape.
do that, or that.
Yeah.
Maybe he likes you with a cape. No, it's a really good question. I think it's some mind games I play with myself too, that I'm learning to like transcend, or I'm doing naturally, I like to think. But yeah, no, that's a really good question. Cause I really just go live and like, I try and push myself to act wilder and crazier as I can. But I kind of do like that dynamic where like in person, I'm not like I am when you see me online.
Yeah.
Cause people kind of do expect me to be like, oh, the peace dealer, and I'm just like, oh,
hey, I'm just dealing peace, for real. Yeah.
But, yeah. And I mean, it's definitely kind of coming from an environment where it's frowned on to now being accepted is really cool, really awesome. But I'm taking my time with it too.
Or we're just schizophrenic and we think everybody is down.
We're all schizophrenic.
Everyone else is schizophrenic.
I know, I'm just saying. Because I've been seeing I always see backlash still. Especially with all the media I do lately, you know? It's like, I realize, oh wow, it's still got a long way to go. But community-wise, there's a lot more than there was. So it's like, you know, it's kind of like being in a tent alone, and then there was only one tent next to you, and then now it's like, oh, there's a crap load of tents. But
Yeah, you
then you go,
would-
then you go look at the whole cities around the whole world, and like, okay, yeah, there's some big ass buildings. I feel like we're coming from tent city to, as Witeki would say, metro spiritual.
I gotta check my pockets.
Can I say something about Mike?
Yeah.
Look at him, somebody laughing. We're like Aquarius and Geminis, man. I love Gemini. What you do that's amazing is you actually create this whole, because the Gemini in you, I guess, can juggle perfectly. Doing your information, your personality, whatever else you wanna bring in, and you're looking at the chat the whole time. You notice that? And he picks up the questions and he puts something in. I mean, you're like so busy. And I'm like really amazed at your ability, cause you know, I know as an Aquarian, I talk like this, I'm all over the place sometimes. But you're like juggling like even the tech and you're checking the mic and you're just making sure of everything yourself, and it's, I'm amazed at you, because you've created a community where we feel acknowledged in the chat. And then people are talking to each other, because I did the peace talk, I'm like, this feels good, people are like saying cool things. So it was really nice, I think you've done something really special, as I've seen you grow over the years. Yeah, it's unique.
I can't even read all the chat, like when I'm not talking. I'm like, how does he do that?
He's
It's like,
fast.
it's just like
Yeah,
popping out the answers to the question, didn't even look like you looked there to read it.
I know. I feel bad, I only look at the chat and I only see whatever's right there and I go, okay, now. And then I see something I like, or if I see someone challenge me, I like pick it out. You wanna challenge me? No. That's it, I don't look at the rest of the chat.
Not him, he catches every word and he just speaks to every comment as it's going, it's like, how in the hell?
I know. So it created the tribe in a
Yeah,
really cool
maybe
way.
that's it.
And you got a lot of, it
One's
jumped
reading.
big time.
It
for
is,
years.
it's admirable.
Right, but it's,
I have a
Maybe that's
question.
what we need when he's on the stage is the little chat.
Distracted by the
he's
chat.
got stuff to do, he's doing multiple things.
Yeah, exactly.
To do. Yeah, maybe you're just kinda like, cause I'm real mellow when I'm too, but maybe you're really great with
I could
stimulating.
put the chat in a projector on for you.
Oh, a live stream.
Or I could put it on an iPad in your lap, or I could put it in front of you on a projector, anything.
I just was saying that.
But then he would on stage be only talking to people in the chat, not the stage.
No, it's cool, this difference.
Actually, he could probably pull up both.
Yeah. Bring out a third head real quick. Capsule. Actually, yeah, I think that's actually been the hardest part, like acknowledging my Capricorn moon, which doesn't want to I think doesn't want to share or come out with what she does, but I'm just learning to allow myself to just feel it instead of just suppress.
But I think you let it out through your skits though.
Oh, definitely.
Those are my favorite part of what you do, and all that you do.
Unless they're about Taurus.
I'm making Taurus get that.
Yeah, so I always kind of keep it as an open thing, so if anybody wants to chime in.
I was just gonna say, does anybody here, okay, not all of you know each other, right? So is there anybody here that you don't know, but you feel like you know them?
I feel like I do, why do I know you?
You feel like you know me? Yeah. Oh my god, I love that. That's awesome.
That's a good question.
It's really weird that you say that because I guessed her sun sign immediately.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, you guys look like you've been friends a long time.
And then I randomly, she said what she did, and I randomly brought up this performance artist, Marina Abramovich, and her brother filmed it. What did he do?
Wow.
Yeah, he worked on the artist is
What
present.
the
Wow.
heck? I feel like I know a couple people here.
That was your question, so you wanted.
Yeah, I mean this side, especially you three. I don't know, we already met, but 1, 2, 3, over there. I don't know. You look familiar, I don't know why.
Byron has so many different people. He's like Dave Grohl. My name is Earl.
Maybe that's
he's
what it
so
is.
many different characters, but he's a beautiful being.
Oh, thanks. Pretty new to the whole game here. Didn't get the Harvard Maroon bulletin.
Right on. Byron's total comic relief too.
Necessary.
We're so glad you're
That's
here.
nice, it's good, it's
Yeah.
good, it was
You
really
got the hat.
wonderful, live
They all stand
It's
up
like
on
the
stage.
man corner.
exposure to I've gotten to hear you, Kat, so I can see you on the screen a little bit, huh?
You're all two
Yeah.
switches together.
Via certain
much
portals
fun.
and channels,
You're the only
Yeah.
guys I had
So
to sit
it's
together.
been a good ride so far, so I'm like digging it. Thanks for.
Must be a
thanks
past
for
life
having
thing, right? Past life.
Yeah.
Probably.
You know what kind of shocked me is the men to women ratio. Like at the last Esther Hicks things I went to, it was all, like the demographic was like 35-year-old men and younger. It was almost all men. Blew my mind. Yeah, that was just like.
Thank goodness.
You should see how many are at Teal Spring.
So,
Oh my gosh.
it's my fault, I'm sorry, it's.
Oh, her thing.
I know guys who've been to her camp in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I ain't about to spill.
Yeah. Me.
A man introduced me to Esther, like maybe 3 years ago.
Huh.
And then I started telling people about her, and it was so funny. Every time I mentioned it to a guy knew about her before.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, a
interesting.
woman. It was very interesting. She must have some sound or some type of like
Either
connection.
that or else Dave's demographic is gonna change to all men.
No, I don't think so. I'm moon in the 10th, so that rules
What?
women.
You what?
I have moon in the 10th, rules
Oh.
women. And then I have Mars in the 3rd, so I communicate as a man to women as a man.
As a manly man.
Yeah. And I have Mars in Scorpio, that's why there's always a sex joke in there. And it triggers a lot of women.
I for so long had that, because I didn't feel like a woman, even though I gave birth. I was very offended to be called a woman, felt like a king. And then I gave birth to my twin, Amor, who is the balance. And we were told that we were supposed to help raise up that integration of having the gender balance. And since I gave birth, I no longer feel like I have a gender. I feel non-binary, but I'm very connected to who I am as a being of light. So I'm more connected as to my purpose now than just any gender thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had the issue with the sexual jokes, and then it went away all of a sudden. And it was like, oh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It was
Yeah,
an
lately the sexual jokes have come down since Scorpio's pretty much over. Now they're gonna be Taurus jokes. Well, it's gonna be like, like about physical things.
Is that part of being a Leo?
Self-worth. I'm gonna be triggering people of like where they have self-worth issues.
Is that part of being a Leo?
That's the job as the king, is to like get people to, so the sun is to light up everything, so.
Clarity, and that's where we're at right now.
And so, it's gonna, that's why it's tonight, like, sitting on the pine at a baseball game, and you're in the corner, nobody's paying attention to you. That's just like the very surface. When I go deeper, it's gonna come into, oh, I'm not going out tonight because my hair doesn't look this way, and then I'm crying in my bed because I don't feel good because of this, these are gonna be things that are gonna be Uranus and Taurus, And then Chiron and Aries, which was the 70s, which, especially the beginning of the 70s, which nobody drives a car from the 70s now. Not even like Camaros, Corvettes, anything from the 70s is like, right? Because there was this, people trying to explore their weird selves and weird hairdos and weird bell bottoms and all this stuff, and all that stuff's in the closet.
Clothes were
Yeah, I can.
So the fashion styles of the next 8 years are going to be hidden cloaks of people who don't have their self-worth.
Go show them your.
That's some deep shit.
That's true.
The clothes?
The clothes and the style, because Chiron and Aries is trying to find its power, but do its wounding through its physical appearance, right? So look at the 70s, it was like, now everybody had long hair, and everyone was bell bottoms, and everyone was cool. And Chiron and Aries
That's our
But
little
then it
Aries.
became where everybody was doing it, and then it was like, Okay. And then it was like the 60s with Chiron and Pisces. At the end was the Woodstock, where it was that was the real hippies, and then the hippie turned into like, nah man, smoking weed like dazed and confused on the football field, bro. Where it was like no deeper connection. It was just kind of like a fad. So I think like spirituality, why we're seeing the fad of it since 2018, is like people dress like it now and think like I'm spiritual, I dress like it now. So like,
It is
But on the
true,
costume?
it is
so like
true.
look at like, you know, look at Sephora, they're putting out like Zodiac makeup, Kylie Jenner did that, or all these people, like, so it's like becoming just a fad instead of actually the real thing.
Yes.
And that's what Chiron and Aries does, and that shows like kind of this like, I want it, so I'll just like go that far, and that's all, okay, I'm identified with it, and that's it.
Makes sense.
So I'm in because I'm identified. Here's my member card. I'm AAA.
Are you saying that it's superficial, or?
I think that
It's not
it's
for all beings. Those who are true to who their spirits are, they obviously dress that way because it feels what their souls are.
yes. It won't be like, oh, I see someone dressing that way, so I'm gonna dress like that.
Yeah, but how do we,
Is
but
it-
how do we prevent, how do we prevent, like, the people from the 60s becoming yuppies? And,
I don't know if there's a prevention.
you know, because you know, you're playing a
Thank
spiritual card, but then you lose track of the authenticity in that. Because you go into it thinking, I wanna find my true self, but then I end up picking up these traits that make me feel like I'm part of this collective now versus what I just left prior.
Yeah.
It's about getting to know you, and then you'll be fine.
But that's what was weird with, so Chiron was found in 77, so that was when it was in Taurus, so we've never seen Chiron in Aries yet. But if we reflect back on when it was there, even though it wasn't discovered yet, it really was a very weird identification thing, right? Like Johnny Carson started wearing short ties, like, you know what I'm talking about? Like became kind of this really weird expression of identity. So I don't think it's a negative thing, it's just like, but people just start identifying, like he's wearing a short tie, so maybe I should wear a short tie. And then it's kind of like, oh, I like astrology and, you know, there's a new makeup line out there, so I'll do it. But it's like, so in the spiritual community, I think it's more like, you know, you see people like the Burning Man thing, right? It's like, Burning Man had a really deep original thing, and then now it's like people are like, well, Burning Man or Coachella. I'm an old Coachella person. I went to Coachella in shorts and a t-shirt. Like, but now it's like, oh, what are you wearing for Coachella? And
First went to festivals, it was never like that.
yeah, it gets like, it's like, so people kind of attach an identification of a wound through, in Aries, through this identification process, and so they attach the identification, and that gives them an identity, and that heals the wound, but then really is that who they are? Or do they keep, it's like, do they keep running down that road, and then do they end up to a place of the ultimate wound of like, that's actually not who I am?
It's like it becomes the mask.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the people who do yoga. I meet people who are like angry yogi people. And it's like, you're angry, like deal with your shit. And then do like the yoga and help you. You know, and then you meet people who are really doing it, you know, like who are really cool.
Yeah, really cool.
You know, they're just really cool people and you wanna be around. And then there's people who want it like as an identity. But they're not dealing with their, you know, so it's like a mass saying, well, I'm a yogi and I'm doing my yoga teacher training, and they're wearing the clothes, and you're like experiencing them, and you're going, oh, okay.
Do you ever get afraid to do certain things because you don't wanna bring that kind of energy to something? Like, you don't go to yoga because you're kinda like hungover or pissed off, or you know, like you're.
No, you do what you want.
Well, I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
certain activities that you like feel like you have to come at it with a certain purity, so you miss out on the whole opportunity, you know, or something. You're like, I can't like.
It's the best time to go to yoga when you're hungover.
Well, I mean, I was just saying that as an example, because
Yeah.
my last yoga teacher was
just-
a little faded when she
just
was
talk.
teaching. I was like, what's going on here? How flexible?
I just wanna say that, like, I don't know, I also think that, it's important to just be wherever you are, whether that is angry or sad or, and you, I mean, the outside stuff can or cannot match what's on the inside, but as long as you're true to yourself, whatever that is, you know.
whether you look a certain way on the outside, people have an expectation of you maybe being perfect as well because you look a certain way and you fit a certain thing. Yeah, I think it's just important to be,
We're mirrors for each other. So if somebody's behavior is triggering you, look within.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why did that trigger you like that?
I just wanted to say too, that with, like, just looking at it a little bit differently, that it's sort of like an open door. Like for an example, when I first got into astrology, it was because of like sun signs and dating and things like that. That was an open door
Right.
to learn a little bit more, and even fashion, maybe someone's dressing, you know, like a certain way that they view as spiritual or whatever, and they don't know what that is yet.
Yeah,
It's,
then they'll find
it's
it.
an open door
Yeah.
for that growth to happen, and, you know, seeds will be planted, and little by little, they'll learn more and more, and so
Yeah.
everybody's on their path, right?
Yeah.
Wherever that's at.
It's modeling.
That's a good
Something
point.
that you like.
Yeah,
I think in conjunction with that too, is that just the same way people often seek external sources of comfort or gratification or escapism or things, I feel like a lot of transformation initially begins in an external capacity. So it's not uncommon for people, and I've seen it even myself along my journey, where it starts out as a need to outwardly express or explore or identify with something that you're really seeking from a soul level. And so sometimes it starts out, it's almost like, I guess almost like the childish form of our transformation. It's like we first, before we can really embody it from within and just be it and just do it, and we don't have to like show it or tell it or,
Yes.
you know, it's like,
Yes.
it starts out that way though, because
Yes.
you have to build the courage. So it's almost
Yes.
like trying it on of like, what are people gonna think? And it's in that almost childish, demonstrative way. And then initially, once you get really in the zone, you can just be it, and you don't gotta like prove it to anyone. You just are who
Right.
you are and believe what you believe.
And I just wanted to say about, because what I meant that I forgot about the yogi who's angry was that I meant people who are trying to force it on you. I didn't mean like they shouldn't have their feelings and they're having a bad day and they're someone who's doing yoga to work through their shit, that's great. I meant like, I meet people who are like, oh, you don't do that, like, where it's not an integrity, and they think they're a healer, and they're 5 different things on their, you know what I mean, I'm this, and this, and at least that's what I
The
found. in
slash
LA.
masters?
Yeah, is that what they're called? So I'm kind of new to LA, so it's kind of like overwhelming. It's like, how many things are you really? So, you know, it's like more about where they're forced, it's like, well, like, you know, it's not a judgment thing, it's like me deciphering through, you know, that sort of thing versus like, oh, that would be the yoga teacher I'd wanna go to versus the one who isn't totally in there.
Like maybe somebody that just does it on social media and isn't really authentic and it's probably like.
I think that's part of the journey too, is developing that inner strength inside of you to say, like, even when it comes to, people thinking that you're insane or whatever,
Yeah,
owning that and saying, you know what, I like the way that I am, and this is more exciting, this is better than anything else that you might be projecting onto me, and I'm okay with you thinking that, but I like this, and just owning that, you
Yeah.
know?
and I think it's a conversation, it's not having to prove anything to each other, you know, it's just a conversation, like, so what are you about? And then I'm what I'm about, and we're just learning from each other
Yeah.
versus, you know, cause that helps transform it too.
And if
I don't
someone
think you
tries to
should
force,
convince anyone, right?
anything on you, just being like,
Yeah,
okay,
that's
you know,
cool,
glad you think that, I'm not going to, and I still feel good.
yeah,
Yeah, Chiron in Aries is like its longest transit through a sign. Which makes sense for the ego, how it almost needs to identify with things to kind of heal parts of ourselves, so, and to understand who we are, and to find things that maybe for a while work, or maybe going after things, cause Chiron is just going, or Aries is just about like, I'm gonna go after this, like, you know? It's gonna make me feel better now. And then sometimes, you know, maybe like, you know, and actually this doesn't make me feel good. It's kinda like when you go to CVS and you're like, I have a cut, I'm gonna try this this thing on my cut, this thing on my cut, this thing on my cut, and then, you know, kind of finding what works. Oh, okay, that, you know what, my thing is alcohol, then hydrogen peroxide, okay. No iodine, you know? So, there's a little bit of like learning to go after kind of what you want and the style you want. But I think that Aries is about make sure that it's coming from within you. You know, like instead of like kind of like trying to like, well, this really isn't me, but I'm gonna go do that because I don't know, it's cool or something. Because I think when you leave your ego in Chiron and Aries, you kind of realize that you feel that you're not yourself. And then you kind of can feel lost in not knowing yourself because you're not picking it from yourself, you're picking it from like a trend. Because I think trends are gonna be pretty intense coming up, you know? And that's been the rise of 2018, because Chiron went into Aries in 2018. And if you notice the rise of trends and spirituality being very trendy, I think it's an open door, like Jade said, but I also think that at the same time, it's like, there's gonna be a flood of people and a flood of information, but that can get really convoluted, and then you know, where does that all go, and where do people go?
I have a question. With spiritual, well, I should say astrology, where do you think astrology is with a trend like cryptocurrency?
Like, just talking about crypto and how astrology looks at it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that cryptocurrency itself and the algorithm that creates it and the blockchain element and I would say like the ICO element for business is gonna be very good. I believe that having businesses based on an ICO, if you know what that is an initial coin offering about building fundraising based upon people and creating the funds for the business, kind of like crowdsourcing, but it's got its actual own coin, helps actually give the returns to the investors of people, and it doesn't have a cap as far as like, only these investors are investing in the business, but a lot of these people are investing in the business, and if it does very well, then it will go very far. So I think it's kind of the new community / corporation element of what cryptocurrency is going to be about. But I don't think that in the traditional sense of like creating just like some coin as a monetary system that's gonna be the coin, that's what's kind of going on right now in trading is like, okay, is it Bitcoin, is it Litecoin, is it whatever? It's like, this stuff is just kind of like, I predicted, nobody wanted to listen to me in November. I said it's gonna hit rock, it's gonna go up and then it's gonna go down. Everybody's like, it's going up, and then it went really down. And that's because I think that it's the idea of that there has to be still with Taurus a physical element, and so a business with an ICO makes sense. But a coin that is not a coin will not like. There's always going to be in Taurus physical money, always. Oh, all the time. That won't leave. People think that Uranus will erase it and make it digital. It's like, yeah, it will, but there will be a backing somewhere. Like, no Taurus is gonna give away everything without a title or without a physical. I mean, when you go to a bank to get a loan, which is Scorpio, what do they ask for? Where are your assets? How much assets do you have? I want a personal guarantee. I want da-da-da-da-da. So the idea of just like this invisible money, which there is invisible money now, ironically enough, but there is a note that we could actually, even though it's pretty much fake, at least it's got a note. And what happened at the end of Pluto and Capricorn was counterfeiting. So my biggest prediction for 2 years has been that when we see cryptocurrency hit the market, counterfeiting and hackers, because you gotta remember that the whole system right now is based off some guy in a trailer with like 24 fucking computers.
No, not a trailer.
There is.
No.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you a question. Do you know how many mining operations there are for Bitcoin alone?
oh God, I can't count.
Okay.
It's all over the world.
Right. How many of them are based out of a home?
Not very
The
many,
percentage.
not very many, because they're smart enough to know that you can't make that much money at home. You have to have a huge.
I understand, but
like,
I'm
quote,
saying
unquote,
that,
factory.
that if you look at the data, since I worked with a partnership that did ICOs, and they went through the actual SEC route to do it correctly. When they did the research, you would be surprised to know that almost 30% of all of those things are still in homes. They're based off people who don't have insurance on the electricity if it goes out. They don't have, you have to do all the research that at 1 minute, a hacker can come in and hack that system. They can take the power out of that place, unplug that system, create a catastrophic failure in the system, and while that's down, re-change coins, throw a bunch of coins into an account, counterfeit the coin to make it look like it didn't leave your account, and then what happens, when you finally wanna trade your account or do it, it'll go down to zero. They have it set up when it's down
You
to
have to have
mask.
insurance if you're investing a high amount of money, which is why the ICOs have done well. And
Correct.
if you're investing a large amount, like you wanna secure your money. So the insurance pretty much covers crazy hackers. And the best way to go into insurance is with the business.
That's why
But if you're
I believe in
doing, like,
ICOs, yeah.
if you're an individual and you're just putting in hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars, it wouldn't be smart to get into it without doing your due diligence and finding out how to
Yes.
secure your money, how to secure your digital cash.
Well, where I think this goes deeper is that the company in which the ICO is gonna be is having to be part of something that is good for humanity.
Which I think it is.
Well, we have, what ICO are we talking about?
I think cryptocurrency is actually gonna eliminate a lot of bad quote unquote things in the ecosystem.
I agree, that's what I'm saying, but I'm saying is that there are bad ICOs too.
Yeah, there's scammers
There's-
everywhere, but everybody,
there's- so-
they're gonna scam their way out of, they're gonna
Yeah, just
scam
like
their
the
way
internet
into
and everything
problems.
else.
They're gonna weed themselves out.
I think it's gonna help form the second internet.
Oh, it's already, the second internet exists. You just
Ethernet,
haven't got it
More
yet.
like the.
No,
yeah.
I
That's what we
understand,
were
I'm
today.
saying
That's
though
what
on
you're
like a massive scale,
Yeah,
and because I'm an astrologer, counterfeiting was the highest at the end of Pluto and Capricorn into Aquarius. And the British were the ones that were purposely counterfeiting American Revolution, Continental Congress dollars to make sure that they wouldn't fight.
You see that with like the way that distributed ledger technology is being adopted within the
Yeah.
banking system. So like I work in banking, full disclosure. It is definitely like against the interests of most banks to adopt
Yeah.
decentralized
And
technology,
they
and
have
it's
enough
much more
money, yeah.
expensive. Like Coinbase, for example, you think, oh, I'm doing great, I'm gonna buy my cryptocurrency through Coinbase, is a centralized system. It's not actually, so we haven't actually adopted the infrastructure yet, but the people who need to adopt the infrastructure to make it work are literally handcuffed to the regulators. So in order to become one, anyhow, long story short, I think it's gonna take a longer time, but you will see people kind of maybe falsify what distributed ledger technology should be by creating subnets within corporate America,
Yeah.
right? So you're seeing Chase create a system for all the banks to basically take the power of the opportunity there, right? And we as consumers have to be conscious enough to understand that and try to not enforce those power structures to
Yeah.
make the shift actually happen faster.
Yeah, I just believe counterfeiting is gonna be high.
Can we speak
Can't
again
counterfeit.
about, when you were saying that you feel that there's going to be beings who falsely represent having spiritualism, because I've been watching many transforming and helping them upgrade. It's kind of like, those of us who have the ability to raise their vibration and help them transform, we're making them wake up and we're opening up their abilities, like they come and they're ready. And so they're really, really transforming, and I feel like it's so fast. And they're starting to see, they're starting to hear, they're starting to feel, and they're like, what do I do with this?
Yeah.
And so it is real, it really is happening. It really, really is. But I've also been told that there's those who are lower vibration who are starting to fall off, and some of those are trying to be into positions. Like the ones who come to me are like high schoolers and children. And they said that the children, they're like, oh, I'm a werewolf, I'm part vampire, I'm part fairy. And they're claiming all these things because they really, really want to be those, or are they faking it? And it's like they really do have fairy beings who are coming through. There really are beings who are here who are coming through. Some of them are aware, some of them are pretending, but how do you decide who is what? And usually it's the ones who truly are transforming who can identify what's going on and see what's going on inside those lower vibrations, which is basically just they need healing, they want attention, but they need to heal.
I think it goes with the same thing with this whole cryptocurrency, is that counterfeiting is gonna be everywhere. Just people pretending to be or seeming like they are, or that we're seeing it in drugs. So fentanyl, right, is a counterfeit version of even though it's a real drug, I'm just saying that it's like a detrimental failure to counterfeiting what the original intent of, I guess you could call it an opioid is, right? It's so powerful that like just a little bit will kill you, right? So sometimes counterfeiting can be too much of a good thing. Sometimes counterfeiting can be like in a lot of different ways, because it's like, it's not at the true essence of its original form. And I think that with what we're seeing is that we're seeing this huge thing of like, I'm gonna be real, like I'm a raver, so I don't do rave drugs anymore because I can't get rave drugs the way they were 10 years ago. Like it's all counterfeit now. So with money and then with spiritual people and all that stuff, I feel like that's what really it was about, was like who shows up and who does it, and then the people who show up, are they just trying to, take the attention away, and are they really, I think it's like an exorcism. It's like they're not even in control. Like I think the dark beings are manipulating souls that are easy to be manipulated in order for them to do their work, because the dark beings don't have power here anymore. So their only way is to like manipulate light beings and turn them into doing their work without doing the work, I guess.
I noticed that the ones who come, some of them like they've been through a lot, and so I've been pulling out like black, like it looks like black, like snakes, like black things from them. Like those who are on methamphetamines, like just black stuff coming out of them. Those who get purifications, they go to the bathroom, they have black stuff. They go through healing. They wake up, their whole bed is black, and they're releasing some sort of black matter, or not matter. It doesn't matter because it's going away. But yeah, it was holding them and hurting them and making them go through things they didn't need to go through, and it had to do with healing, because they went through things they held on to. Healing helps them release that energy also.
Well, you gotta remember that where are these substances, like whether it's food now, drugs, like where the intent behind all of it, or like when you do a shamanistic ceremony with drugs, like there's a prayer, there's an intention for it, right? So somebody smoking methamphetamine is getting it from bathtub, somebody in either a trailer or Mexico, or they're definitely not getting the blue shit in Breaking Bad. So then there's no ritual, there's no nothing, so people are just like, and even in Aya ceremonies, there's a lot of fake shaman now that are just down there and doing like trips, or they're doing them in America now. Like
everywhere.
Like I was talking to a guy a couple nights ago, and we were in, where's Craig? He left. We were in Phoenix, and they went to Florida to go to an Aya ceremony, and a guy just straight up died in the middle of the ceremony.
What? Wow.
Yeah.
You don't need Aya to get to that
Yeah.
point. Like you can just meditate and be and connect to. You can wake up and do that meditation. That's sacred. Yeah, you don't need Aya. Like it's sacred. Yes, Aya is sacred, but I haven't even tried it because I'm naturally high. I wake up high.
Yeah, I think Neptune and Pisces, which has been in now halfway through the transit, kind of is like scary waters the more you go into the drug world, because it's at its most potent place. I mean, at the beginning of it was the bath salt videos. Do you remember those people jumping off bridges and doing all that race? And I remember looking at that, and that's when I quit drugs. I was like, Neptune, Pisces, I'm done.
And the people who died in the sage?
Yeah.
I was there the day before that happened in Sedona. The guy who, like, they spent $10,000 to go through his motivational thing, and then he created that sage thing, and like 3 people died, and he's in jail now.
What sage?
You know,
It
what
was
do they call them, sage?
sweat
Sweat lodge. Sweat lodge. And he wouldn't let people leave.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
So that was the issue, was that like people couldn't get up and leave if they weren't feeling well. So someone had a heart problem, someone was like, and 3 people died.
You know, David, when you're saying like you're gonna probably go into a period where we're gonna see a lot of trends and things, and I feel like that has been a huge oncoming trend with the ayahuasca ceremonies and different things, and something that I really respect about you and the work that you do is that, well, you announce that, you know, you're sober, you're clean and sober and different things, and I don't pass judgment for, it's something I've talked more passionately about recently, even on my platform, because I think I have an understanding of with the mental health and different things that maybe ayahuasca is, or other types of plant medicines or different things are really perfect and great for some people, but there are many, many people that it's really dangerous, like it's a really bad thing. If you have any type of actual diagnosable mental illness or health issues, these kinds of things, I mean, especially like even for some schizophrenics, it can be like permanently damaging. And so, or just even, so I think with some of the trends, I think that's a dangerous movement, because there are many people who are just coming on board and they're looking to different spiritual guides and leaders within the community who maybe for them at the point that they're at, they can go do that. And it's like this incredible enlightening experience. But for somebody who currently has active addiction issues, who have current active, you know, unhealthy, unstable mental health issues, to go and participate in some of these things because they think that's the only way to reach this kind of mastery that they're seeing on public platforms, it makes my heart very sad, you know, and so I don't pass judgment of those things that it's not right for, you know, anyone, but I feel like something actually I respect about both of you, and I'm not yet familiar with your channel, but will be after today, is that you're very, very raw and authentic in your messages, and like it's the no bullshit, unfiltered type of message, and that's what I really feel like we need more of within the lightworker community, of people saying, look, this is the shit, and then people can, you know, they can have the whole picture of understanding what all the options are, so then they can really find what resonates as truthful and right for them to go about their transformation the best way, not necessarily in what they're seeing just on social media, because I can tell you personally, like, drugs, whether they're natural or not, are not right for everyone. And I think that there needs to be more, at least, transparency and options towards healing, because there's a lot of different routes to get to the same destination.
Yeah, and everybody has their own way of doing that. Like marijuana's a big one now, right? So
Ayurvedic also.
Yeah.
It's a really beautiful option. You can pass drug tests.
That's a way of life. That's like a form
Sacred.
of
But I also
just
That
taking
connects-
herbs and just changing your
Just
diet to your
natural
body
herbs.
type.
Organic, being organic, natural, it would be very
Chinese
natural and it
herbs.
would be very connected.
But don't you think that isn't our approach in setting the expectation that healing is not instant? This is a lifelong commitment. And us, those that choose to be the light workers and those that choose to step into that and to teach others, have to set the expectation. It's not gonna take one trip, it's not gonna take one choice. This is a lifetime commitment, and if you're not in it for the long haul, you will be frustrated.
honestly, amen. That's
I
the
mean-
message right there.
I mean, I appreciate, you know, and I even like, sometimes when I was like really low, I was like, maybe if I just take ayahuasca, I can just break everything and I'll be free. And I'm like, no, come back to yourself. You know what I mean? Yeah, I need to get myself regrounded, but I think that is the point where we're now responsible for the message that we put out, because we've all been in the process. That we set the expectation that this is not a quick fix, this is a longevity walk, and we're in it with you till the end. And I think that's the key thing for us to learn how to do
Well,
collectively.
it works off the premise that
Mhm.
something's wrong with you, that you need to fix.
I'm just gonna play the devil's advocate and just say that sometimes people do need medication. Sometimes
Oh, yeah.
people
Yeah.
do
Yeah,
need
we're not saying
supplement
that.
medicine.
I'm not saying you don't need
And
it.
sometimes people need drugs. There's a lot of studies on LSD that they're saying that doing the microdosing is really helping people elevate their awareness of creativity and connectivity to like self. And I think that,
PTSD.
yeah, PTSD especially. So I'm on the cyberdelic wave. That I think
Cyberdelic?
I think it's
Yeah, and I think
it's
nobody
like-
here said anything to contradict that. I think the message was that it's just a lifelong journey of commitment to the
yeah.
path. I think that what was said too is that there is some people who have to probably consider their own mental health issues before entering into that space because it becomes very dangerous very quick. And then for people also to make sure that they're understanding of what they're stepping into completely and coming from a good space with it, opposed to kind of like just running into it because
most definitely.
this is what my girlfriends are doing, we're all going and we're going here, do you wanna do it? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Bless anything and everything you put into your mouth. Like you could use your crystal, like your necklace, and you could say, take out anything that's not my highest vibration, and it'll go counterclockwise. And you say, can you please fill this with light, or make it taste like grape, or put what needs to be in it to nourish my soul. And it will go clockwise. And when it's done, it will say yes. And it will taste different, it will feel more vibrant, it will glow. So that's with anything you put in your mouth.
And I think, to each his own, so I would really hope you wouldn't misunderstand what I'm saying, cause I do believe, like, there is a path for everyone. I would love to see
By
like
the way,
a.
I agree with everyone. I just wanted to
Yeah,
say
yeah.
something to advocate for that.
Yeah, and that's important.
Shoot
I think it'd be
after
really
me,
cool
and
to
I'm
see
broader.
like a panel. There's a lot of different practitioners with different modalities and different healing techniques and things. It would be really cool to see like a panel where, maybe there is someone who's all pro plant medicine, maybe there's someone who's all, pro crystals. And there's, just like that they could weigh out the pros and the cons, because I feel like maybe that's what's lacking. So then people can see based on that information, what are the pros and cons of this method? What are the pros and the cons of this method? And then what's my situation? What's my history? And you know what? I think that path might be the best one to be the most organic and comforting and healing.
That makes me think of like, do you all think that AI will unlock the secrets of astrology for
I
the
love
masses?
you.
Can I say something before
Yeah,
you enter
yeah, no,
into
just
that
asking.
conversation really quick? I just wanted to say, when it comes to, I guess, whatever you wanna consider light work or whatever, being here on Earth, we learn through contrast. And I think just reminding yourself that of the truth, and we're learning unconditional love, for ourselves and for, really for ourselves, and by looking in the mirror of each other, and just, reminding ourselves that that is what we are learning here. And so there will always be contrast, because we're looking at, dark and light, and it's all a part of the whole. So every, modality that anybody's using, or, all of it fits somehow into the whole. And appreciating the contrast that is here in this place. Cause even, like, I know David had said before, we don't want everybody to all be dressing exactly the same, for everyone to be the same. That's part of the beauty of being here on Earth, is the contrast, and learning to appreciate every single speck of that.
I heard the weirdest concept, just to tie with this real quick, and maybe you guys have already heard it, but it was that there was a past time where we've tried to do this path, and the mistake that we made is we all just went light. And the problem was, when everybody went light, that's what caused the, like, mass explosion. So it was that we came this time with this agreement that there would be certain ones of us that would carry the dark, so that there would be the balance of the yin and yang, and then there would be come the time where the dark could jump off of our backs, or jump out of our lives, and then that we were all here in balance. And that makes so much sense to me, because like what you're saying about the black showing up, like on the sheets, or on the, it's like it's
Healing them from the things they've experienced, like even from before they were given birth to again. Some of them hold it from like the pyramid, and one that came through that was murdered, and they had a baby, and a child, and the woman who did it, or the being who did it had made it with its beloved, its husband, its beloved. And so I had to heal that beloved. Ever since I saw it, it's like, I see you in a pyramid, I need to help you. And it just saw me, I'm doing a video, and it came into the shop, and it's like, okay, I'm here. I was like, okay. And it was the most beautiful experience, because it was like I was healing the child and the mother together. And I feel like I took out so much. And then another one came in and it said, do you think that I could be possessed in my head? And it had a head injury. And so I started working on it, and its nose started bleeding. And I took someone out, literally someone out. And it was definitely dark, but it was a beautiful being who had experienced things. And it just, there was a reason it was there. So I created a realm for it, gave it a family, I gave it a beautiful place to be. They need places to go. We can't just tell them that they're gone. They deserve to have a happy place also. So like it is an integration, and we can't just snuff them out, because they have purpose too. Like demons, like they send them to the forest. There's places for beings to go, and not all of them are just evil or good. They have purpose too. There's something about them that something happened to them, and they need healing too, and they need to be accepted too, and not just called evil.
But it made sense to me how so many of us, like as light workers, have felt dark. Like inside of ourselves, or we've questioned if we had dark. And it's like, yeah, we did. And we were helping it get here. Like in a safe way, where it wasn't like destroying stuff along the way,
Yeah, that's shadow work though.
Yes, exactly.
And that's big shadows or big light.
I think what's really, to add on to the spiritual counterfeiting and the deception, what's really deceptive and worrying is when people hear a psychic reading or get any reading, and they're told stuff that hits their soul that they didn't expect to be told. They forget all judgment, and they're like, wow, I didn't tell you this information. You must be some type of God, or you must be ordained because you told me some stuff I wanted to hear. And I think, as people are coming more into this knowledge and able to divine, it's actually really a question for everybody. What's a practical way to discern, like, who really is of the light per se? How can you tell that? Because you see people on YouTube, and you see people in the world who put up this image, and they give super accurate readings, and they change people's lives, but you find out they're really dark people.
There's something inside of you that says, like, maybe that's not completely accurate. There has to be some part of you that's getting a sensation.
But if you're brand new, you're not gonna know.
Yeah, if you're brand new.
If you're brand new, you're not gonna know instantly, but I think it goes down to the fact, if we set the expectation that you have to sit with something, like you said, when you said buying a car, you don't instantly buy it right off the lot, you come back to it.
Go home and
You go home and you think about it and you process it. I mean, even the Christian, they say Selah, they want you to pause before you make the judgment.
And what do you feel about it?
So, and what do you feel about it? Because everything that we have is presented to you to find the meaning for you. So when that person speaks into your life, negative or positive, you bring meaning to that. And does that person even have that awareness yet?
And I think you have to ask for a reading instead of somebody coming up and saying, you need to hear this, you need to, that's the intrusive part of like, you need to hear this, I have a message for you, I have a message for you, I have a message for you. It's like, well, you're really trying to push through my gates right now, aren't you? Where it's like, when somebody buys a reading from someone, right, it's like, I want you to tell me what it is. Like, I am open, I'm ready. So it's like you're coming to the light, opposed to the darkness, which I feel just tries to come in your gates and come in and say, you need to hear this, you need to hear this, open up, open up, open up. It's total cry wolf kind of energy. Get in, and then get into your energy, and then tell you things you don't want to hear and kind of mess with you.
Does that, someone that does readings, I've never done a reading, like giving somebody a reading, but how do you keep in line the power and the responsibility
that one, that I will only do readings for people who ask or buy. Like, so I just don't go up to somebody and be like, hey, that I don't know, like, what sign are you? Oh, okay, you need to know this, this is this, da, 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 da. Like, it has to be, there's like that right of, like, there's a code.
Okay.
Like, so like, you know, mall psychics, you're like, oh my gosh, you need to talk to me, da, 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 da. Like,
Right, that's
that's
what I was
just like, that's
I mean, they
counterfeiting.
just full on, so I'm like.
If they don't bring true solutions, if somebody's gonna speak to you and they're gonna give you a message, and it's not gonna be a positive one, if they don't come with a positive solution, then what good is that doing you?
It's just manipulation.
Has to be a positive solution. Any being who comes forward and there's something going on, you see into what's going on and you bring up the solution that is revealed, the most positive, easiest solution for them to do, or you help them through it. Because many of you are healers also. Help them through it. Put your light up.
And you have to have a good space to do it in.
Well, and I, like, you did that with me, you asked, and I can instantly just, I'm at this point now, where if there's some people who ask me, I'll be like, no, I don't want their energy. On me and doing weird, whatever they're saying they're doing, but like I instantly know.
You can feel it.
And it was like one of the first times I've ever felt as much as I did when she did, and I'm just like, this is great. Like, but there's a lot of people I don't like, you know, it's like, no.
Yeah, cause that person has to want to get the reading. So when you do connect with their guides or their soul, like, it's a properly opened gateway into them and they're accepting. And as a reader, the responsibility is whatever is coming through, that you know you're in that space and that you've done enough work to know when guides come up and the message is, one, as a reader, I know my guides, so I know when the message is coming through them, and I know when a message is not coming from them. Also knowing that when my guides talk to other people's guides, that like when that message comes through, there's just an emotional knowing and feeling, this is it, bam, and it's connected with the chart perfectly. So like, there's always like a trifecta of a backup system that you have to create to kind of to know you're in the holy cycle of not a counterfeit cycle, you know, like that you're fully in it. Like, and that there's background checks in a lot of different ways. And I think that it took a long time to kind of get there, but yeah. And
I'm fairly new with the spiritual community, so I've been doing this work, learning, growing for like a year and a half. But I've learned, I had to like learn, I was looking at a lot of readers on YouTube and stuff like that, and I had to learn from Discernment. I've noticed that they'll say something that'll resonate with me, but then other stuff is like, oh, that doesn't resonate. But it was times where if it resonated with me, I would like take the whole message. And I had to learn, like, no, you gotta pick and choose.
Yeah.
You know, and so, and I had to learn too, just to say that I'm a master of discernment.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say that, I say it like every day, and I even like wrote it out, I am a master of discernment. So when I see it, when it comes, I can really tell it now.
Yeah.
That ancient show is like definitely confirmation, yes you are, yes, be that, yes. I pray that every being will start to feel that more and more, be able to feel the truth, and to be the truth, to be truthful.
And that's the best point as a reader's responsibility, is it's just, as a reader, discernment of what you're gonna say and know if it really is really divinely supposed to be said. Like, there's some things that I get and it's like it's not time for them to hear that, right? It's like, let's go with, because they won't, you know, maybe that's too much on them, and let's find the solution first that they can get through, that we know.
Is that a feeling you get too? Does it feel like you're like, oh?
It's just like if it comes up like 12 times, then it's like, okay, it's gotta be 12 times. Right? Because the guides are not leaving, because they're like, we've been trying to tell her or him for like ever, with all these signs, here. And then for me, it's usually like, other guides show up that are backups, and then more guides, and then stadium, and then I'm like, okay, I get it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I actually told this story, what was it? I think it was last night to Michael and to Sophia. It was just us three here. And we were kind of, I was cleaning the space and getting the space ready for today and cleaning out the energy, because whenever, before an event, I just am kind of that, I wanna make sure it's all good. And I was telling them about the last time I had relapsed on methamphetamine, which was one hit in 2012. And it was weird because my guide swooped in and had their face look like this, like what the heck? And then Archangel Michael swooped in and was like this, like, I don't know what to tell you, bro. And then all these angels popped up, like, we don't know what to tell you. And I didn't even have to look behind me, but I just kind of peripherally, energetically used my back end of my soul, which was a lesson of reminding myself to not only have my front shielded, but my back. That behind me was like the army of darkness. That I was gonna, that there's nothing you can do once you cross the line, like right back. And then I was teeter-tottering on all this great light work that I had begun, and that was my point of like, I'm not gonna do drugs anymore. And that was so scary, and I had like a panic attack over it. And then I felt guilty, but then I knew, okay, I just know that's not right. And that's what happened with me on marijuana. They were like coming down on me like, no. I was like, okay. And then I would push through and try it again, no. But with marijuana, it's like a little different, right? But still, like, yeah, I think that's the way you have to pay attention to, like, the universe and your guides are gonna be very clear, like, no. And they usually are gonna do massive signs. And the more you connect with guides, and the other realms and can see them, which is something that, you know, I think all of us can do. That's the magical place in which discernment is a very, very intense place.
David, are comets cyclical, man, in astrology? Is the comets,
Yes.
is there anything coming? Because, like, I don't know.
Well, comets usually come out of nowhere, they got kind of quick.
Yeah, there's not a lot of
Like-
anomalies that are like kind of attributed to comets, like in the 1800s, there was
Right.
a worldwide mud flood
Yeah.
that pretty much covered like the whole world. People, it's coming out now, but they said maybe it was a comet, like, but it came and went, an anomaly, and but
Right, and then there's comets up with cycles that they know, like Halley's Comet, right?
You guys know about Oumuamua?
Yeah,
Oh,
Oumuamua,
yeah.
which was 2017, which does not look like.
It's a weird
It's
something.
an asteroid that came in that was elongated, rectangular. It's the first time that we've ever seen an object come in from another solar system. And it came through and it passed very close to Earth. And even NASA saying now that this is an intelligent life source, that it could be, like, because we always think of like spaceships as like, okay, it's gonna have like computers and then there's gonna be people driving it or something. Like, no, but it's like that this form does not look naturally from the universe that they've ever seen because of its form and so forth. It came from another solar system, so it came from outside our heliosphere. It actually entered into our actual system, and it passed by Earth, and it looks like it did a scan.
Yeah. Where did that name come from?
It's Hawaiian.
It's Hawaiian, yeah.
And I forgot what it means, but it's like from another realm.
Yeah, it's the first time NASA has ever tracked and actually.
And it came like in between, like, what was it, like two celestial bodies?
Yeah.
Like crazy accuracy.
But comets are a big deal.
I'm sorry?
It's Nibiru.
Oumuamua.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, there's a lot of, Nibiru is Planet X. I mean, they're saying that there's another planet out there, but there's a lot with the Anunnaki and like if whether or not the gods who created the people, you know, on this earth live on that planet. They come around to basically check up on their slaves here and kill them or fuck them or do whatever. There's a lot of different versions of it, but
did it pass already?
It's far away. If you look up on astro.com, Nibiru is out at like I think 1 Mars or something like that. I forgot. But to his point about comets, like there was Comet Elenin, which was in 2011 into 12. And that was right bringing into the whole energy of the 2012 energy. And that was the last big comet that was really big and was coming by in our solar system, and I was doing a lot of horoscope stuff about Comet and when it was in. But since then, we've been kind of, but there is cycles, like, I think it is Halley's Comet is every, that one comes. So comets do cycle, but sometimes they do come from out of nowhere. And I think that comets kind of are a signal of a sign to pay attention to the times in which they are. And they're that tarot card in the zodiac. Like they're the tarot card. They're the confirmation after the reading. Like there it is. And I think depending on maybe where the comet is, you can look at it from a Western chart tropically, or you can look at it from a geocentric chart. What planets is it passing through in what orbits? Where's the helio at the time of that comet? So if you look at a helio chart, you can actually see the trajectory of the path that they finally get and predict. And is it going on that path? And what are those planets doing heliocentrically? And what are they doing on a geo-based chart? So you can kind of try to connect with where is this signal trying to be sent. Because it also could be like a page back in the day, right? Like Page of Wands, Cups. Like, to me, it's a Page of Swords. Like there's that aspect of like a message that needs to be quickly sent, like a text message, like from the universe at a high rate coming in fast to pay attention to. Like here, it's like an emergency email with like alert. Urgent. Urgent. Yeah, that's how I look at comments. At least, and I think that they wake up people. Yeah. I mean, and they also, people kill themselves over comments too. Yeah. Literally.
And then also, more or less what they were getting into, I don't know about that, but like, I believe after like 2020, maybe like, I don't know, divergence to the age of Aquarius, I think it could either go like super positive or super weird, like AI kind of control, like, do you have any recommendations? Like you're saying like after like, something spread fear, I'm sure like,
So think about what's gonna be weird about this 2020s is that for right now, Jupiter's been like basically trailing Saturn for a while, ever since the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. Then there was the Jupiter-Saturn opposition, which was in the beginning of the decade, when we had Jupiter in Pisces with Uranus in Pisces, and Saturn was in Virgo. So since 9 years ago, now next year, Jupiter-Saturn meet up, right? Because it's a 10-year cycles, okay? What's now interesting is now Jupiter's going to lead the way. We've been in the last 10 years of Saturn's been leading the way, and then Jupiter's cleaning up Saturn's mess. Now Jupiter's gonna open up all these Aquarian stuff, and Saturn's gonna come through and go, whoa, too much went on here, I gotta control it. So I'm not afraid of AI killing us, just for the fact that Saturn's gonna be behind Jupiter and being the backstop, coming over the years of all the 1 year of Jupiter in Aquarius. But then on top of that, when Saturn enters its own sign of Aquarius as well, then you've got that. Then when Pluto enters Aquarius, Jupiter already kind of did its charades, I guess you could say. And Pluto and Saturn are going to be holding down, even though they're malefics, they're actually a saving grace of not eating your dessert before your dinner kind of thing.
Some of them optimists, but like diehard optimists, there's also trying to be real. Like, okay, it's like how much shit is gonna go down? Is it gonna be like,
I think it's gonna be positive and negative, and because with Jupiter leading the way, everybody gets their dessert first. So, some people are gonna eat enough and it's gonna be good and they're not gonna have a stomachache, and then some people are gonna eat too much and it's gonna be a headache, right? And then Saturn and Pluto kind of come along and are the repercussions of it, and also at the same time, that the electrical systems are going to be the main thing. I mean, so we've got all these power grids that are from the 19th century, literally. We are still using coal, we are still using, so people are like these big places that they're putting these servers, and they're putting these places and even in China, they really don't, for AI to truly be at the height of where it's going to have to search for power. Yeah. And I think that the Aquarian age is really going to be about what is power. Like fusion energy is able to create energy by inversion instead of extroversion, right? So when you blow up a fire, right, there's going to be smoke, right? When you blow up in your car, your gasoline, there's going to be CO2. But with fusion energy, it's an inversion of using inside of itself and creating energy with nothing. So I think that we're gonna have to find energy sources, or solar energy, I think is gonna be big. But I think that I'm not too afraid with Saturn and Pluto falling behind to kind of make sure, like, okay, look at how much you expanded, but what's gonna actually work and be good for the world and people. And so the Aquarian age really is this 2020, but I think it's gonna go off real popping quick, lots of ideas, lots of expansion, you know, but then I think that Saturn and Pluto trailing are gonna be like, hey, yeah, you want that, but like you can't charge and plug that in because there's not enough power.
But I mean, does the astrology look like hardcore, like oppression of the like human species, or is that more?
I would say that that's right now into 2020, and then at the end of 2020, it's about breaking that out.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Yeah, I would say that this is the wall right now, if you use Pink Floyd's analogy.
Oh yeah, you're moving beyond it.
Yeah, correct. Like this is it right now. Like now into next year. It peaks out December into especially January 2020 is no fun.
Yeah.
Like we are gonna have the worst. I won't say that. I'm just gonna say that the astrology is gonna be the gnarliest you've ever seen on January of 2020, because you have Jupiter South Node, you have Saturn, you have Pluto conjuncting. You have at that same time, of course, when the sun comes in on New Year's Day, you know, there's going to be eclipses that are going to happen at the South Node point with those. Those are all the. Those are the malefics, and Mars is in there too, because Mars' cycle, okay, is coming with Jupiter, with Saturn, with Pluto. So you need all three malefics with the South Node during an eclipse cycle of that aspect.
There's hope as.
That's the best of the moon in Capricorn.
Yeah, eventually the planets will move away. That's your hope. That's your hope, just wait it out.
And then in 2020, it's a Mars, Venus retrograde year again.
With the South Node, I love how you refer to it as like a broken ride at Disneyland.
Yeah.
With Pluto and Saturn like coming, are those guys converging? I feel like they're not happy having a broken ride. Like this feels so gnarly with the South Node, and the North Node in Cancer feels like such an island. Like whereas Leo, it felt really supported. It was like, okay, go to shining your heart and filling yourself with love. And now like it's really hard to get to that island. I was like,
You know, that's why you're gonna see these corporate people right now, or government people, do anything to save the ship from falling, right? Like they will do it. Anybody, and then in your own life, people will do anything to not lose position of a certain position in your life. And I think that it's like learning to say, you know what, that position, do I really need to be in that position? Like, cause that's all Capricorn is a position. And I think that we're just like, I think that, but on a global scale, it's like Pluto, Saturn kind of want to keep things the way that they are, and the South Node is saying, well, maybe, you know, allow yourself to do the Pluto Saturn. So it's like Pluto and Saturn have two operations. One is to extremely manifest and create, because all Saturn is an executor and all Pluto is an executor. Pluto enhances or kills, that's all it does. And Saturn restricts or builds you to the top, like there's, right? So there's this, they're the most extreme. So it's like either all the way or complete destruction, tower on top of death card, on top of, you know, like that's what they are, tower and death card. That's what Saturn and Pluto are. So it's like you're either dealing with, you know, that with like the 10 of Cups after it, or like the 10 of Swords or something. So I think the South Node element is a very illusionary piece to where people believe they have control in places that they really don't. And that's where I think the Uranus-Taurus vibe is gonna help kind of discern the reevaluation of whether or not people should do that or not. And I think the Cancer element is a safe place for us, although you have to remember that in Vedic astrology, Rahu moon is no good, because Rahu is a malefic, and the moon, which is one of the best planets in Vedic astrology, Rahu moon is one of the hardest cycles in your Mahadasha or in your chart. So this is not this is 9/11, North Node Cancer, right? America's a Cancer sun. So, that's why I'm saying that America's choice of president in 2020 will literally make or break the whole country. And I don't think Trump's gonna be in there at all. I don't think he's gonna make it health-wise, like, or mental stability-wise, or whatever it might be. Unless, you know, I just don't see him making it, unfortunately. Can I just say that as a human being, right? Like, you know, but whoever's there, there's gonna be a big battle about what is this new system gonna look like. You know, is the Constitution gonna be valid still? There's gonna be a lot of weird stuff that goes on there. I mean, and I think that there's stuff that needs to be taken off or changed, and there's stuff that, to be honest with you, the best way to describe it is the system is so big. Like, just think of the world, you know, the systematic way of Capricorn understands like a clock, the inner workings of gears. The gears that run this world are so insanely big that it's impossible to change out every gear at once. And so it's about what gears are the most important to change that could still affect the other gears to operate in a new direction, opposed to like redoing the whole thing. I think it's impossible to redo the whole thing without nuking the place. Does that make sense? So Saturn and Pluto don't want to nuke the place.
What about for business owners with the Uranus in Taurus, where, like, you know, you've talked a lot about, like, with the Great Depression and then going into World War II and whatnot. So something that I thought was, like, my mind was spinning while listening to that, you know, these discussions, was that in the Great Depression, what was interesting is, like, some big corporations today, they made it big by taking these big risks and gambles during the Great Depression at a time when nobody was wanting to invest in anything, and they're starting these businesses, and, you know, you have JCPenney and stuff, you know, these companies like that today that are still standing. So I was curious your thoughts on, like, for business owners and things at this time with Uranus and Taurus and whatnot, of I don't know, of maybe a similar concept of, like, the risks and the gambles and like making something from a time when nobody would want to make something of it.
This is a great question. I think risk is part of the game right now, but with the North Node of Cancer, there's like, you have to know your limits that are where your emotional risk is at a peak line, right? Like, how much can you handle emotionally risking? And if you lose, will you emotionally be able to handle the lose?
Okay.
That makes sense? So it's about knowing, to his question with Pluto and Saturn Capricorn, like, how far do you take the gamble? It's almost like to the line.
Because it's like kind of hard right now with people in this industry, for anyone, you know, who's a business owner here, like working in this industry. It's kind of hard because it's like everything you do is a risk, and I was just really curious where, you know, you have a really established platform and stuff right now, and with your understanding of, I don't know, for maybe some smaller business owners, you know, getting up and running in the industry of, yeah, I think that response is
I think
whatever advice.
So the North Node of Cancer is emotional safety, right? It's emotional, having a family, like whatever that is, like the support system. Because going into the South Node of Pluto and Saturn in Capricorn is a risk in life with whatever you're risking financially, or it's investment in your time. That's really what it is. It's time.
Okay.
And it's also about you know, so 10th house is government, it's politics, but on a business level, it is, how do you know how to play it politically? Are you willing to go out there publicly? Like, so it's not about small town community things, it's about having to reach larger levels of hierarchy, like the Indian hierarchy system. It's like the movie, like, with Justin Timberlake, just in time or whatever, where they have just enough time, and the only way to get to the higher realms is like you need more time to get through, to pass through the gates. Like, there's a risk of like, I'm down to like 1 minute left and I'm gonna run and like do this to get through, like, you know, like people get too afraid and
So what if someone's not afraid?
then they'll make it through. It's just the emotion, you have to know the emotional line, and that's how far that you know you'll go, like, if that makes sense. Like your emotional security line, because North Node and Rahu, right, in Cancer, which rules the moon, in Vedic astrology is your psychosis of your mental brain. It really is not Gemini as much as it is Cancer, right? Because when you mix emotional insecurity and failure is what triggers your emotions, which then go into the chaotic abyss of your karma and your past, right, and all that stuff. So it's like knowing, you know, how far you emotionally could get to the line without emotionally losing it, and making sure that you have support if it did fail. Right?
Even on the path there, to have the support.
Yeah.
It feels good to help get you there, or to have your back, or to just like help see the vision with you, whatever.
It's good if we have more of these, right?
Yeah.
So we can build.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's about aligning, like she said, and like, oh, that's what's just said, is like, it's like a backpack of love.
Yeah.
But you can't carry like 50 bottles in your backpack and hike without your back going out. So it's about knowing how much you can take emotionally with you, and kind of Pluto and Saturn, remember, about and Capricorn is about, you know, how much do you need? Like, you only need this much to get where you need to go, because you can't climb the mountain with too much weight, or you're not gonna make it, right? Or your knees will go out. That's why Capricorn rules the knees too. So it also is kind of like, if you're weak in the knees, they say, it's an expression from back in the day. It's like, and there's that element. I think that it's about learning to not be afraid of the edge of risk. It's like when you step into that emotional comfort that you're risking, and then, you know what I mean? It's like when you get to the line, that's how I mean, Steve Jobs got to the line, boom, got it, done. Changed it, it's like that's how it's done. It's like, get to the line, and right when you think that you got to the line, that's the only line, then it gets fixed, and there's another line. And then there's another line, but that's what's teaching you to see how far that you really want to go, because there is a yin and yang, there's a infinity 8 that goes through the north and south nodes. They both need each other. So even though the ride might be broken in Capricorn, as I like to say, is it's getting renewed to a new, in evolutionary astrology, it's becoming the new Capricorn. There is this element of us all needing to take risks in order to emotionally be satisfied, because just sitting down with your family all day and sitting in a home is getting really boring, right? Because the South Node is saying, well, come on, there's gotta be, look at this, there's a world that needs to be changed, and are you gonna change it sitting here, you know, by yourself, like, or just like on the couch eating soup or something?
Then you start hearing the voices.
Right, so that's where there's that figure 8 of like learning, like, okay, well, let's just take the line and see if I can I can deal with that line, 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 and just take it as lines, and then when you get to one, you're like, oh, I don't know! You know, kind of sit back for a second and then be like, how bad do you want it, and are you sure you emotionally would be able to handle it if you jump over and there's a raptor at the Jurassic Park, like, you know, like, will you look it in the face and go, hey buddy, and turn into like Chris Pine and turn it into your best friend? Or are you gonna like run to the hills and poop your pants and pee and like get eaten? You know, because like you have to be willing to take the risk, as well as once you get over the line, that whatever is in that territory is gonna be new energy you've never gone through, because it's connected to past life karmic zones you haven't ever passed before. Like, you know, this is, you know, usually when you get to the line of a South Node Pluto Saturn is like a past life of where you reached the farthest you had reached before and you died. So it comes to a point where it's like, oh God, like I've already been here and it feels like it's all crushed, and and it's like, maybe you do cross the line and you actually get past a karmic point you've never been past before. So a lot of people get afraid because they feel that past life karmic of like, I died here.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a video game, like, oh my god, I'm on level 8 in Mario Brothers, and number 4, and this is where I only had 1 life left and I died. And now you have 1 life left, and you're all the way down to little, and there's nothing left, and Bowser's there, you know what I mean? It's like, and you were done because you double pushed A, and you went boop boop, and you went down the hole. Like this time, okay, I'm not gonna do that this time, and you have to be confident enough and emotionally prepared to even lose, but at the same time, it's like, okay, once. And then, bam, hit his head. Ding, 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 ding. You know what I mean?
I'd be curious, like a part 2 of that question for Mike, where he's so good at looking at people's superpowers and things through the charts, would be then on top of that with Uranus and Taurus for people with the various midhavens and things, and if they're in alignment with their soul's work, you know, right? How can this be a profitable time for people to like basically be manifesting their superpowers through their midhavens in a time when there's a great opportunity for security, stability, you know, and growth?
I can't be afraid to fail. And you have to be willing to make as many mistakes as you can until you I wasn't even gonna say get comfortable succeeding, but I think the biggest thing is you have to be ready to fail. Or even if you are prepared to fail, not let that stop you basically. Just keep pushing.
One of the cards that I have in this one is like of a warrior. And the warrior's blade is up and it says, if you weren't afraid, what would you do? You would rise up and get all those things accomplished, that manifestation or that creation list that you did on 11/11 on it. Or if you didn't do the list, then you'd make it, you'd map it out, you wouldn't be afraid. Like, I dare you to write out what you would like to have if you weren't afraid. What would you do? And read that and meditate on that and push it, believe, and make it happen. Jump, leap of faith, fly.
Yeah, do you remember Neptune's involved with all this? Because it's in sextiles to Saturn and Pluto, basically, but mainly Saturn, right? And then you've got the North Node by the end of this year coming into trine with Neptune. And so, really, it is about if you trust in the risk of a higher dimensional business that has a purpose, that is higher than yourself and everyone else, that is transcending kind of the Virgo reality of service and more into the Neptunian truth, that there's a media element to it, believe it or not, because Neptune rules the media, and this is a battle of the media, and that's where all this internet, video, so I would definitely say that having video, audio, podcasts, whatever you can, will leverage your business more than ever. I think traditional style business without some sort of Neptunian, you gotta remember that Neptune rules Hollywood, the celebrities, the hierarchy, and the way that the turn of the last 4 years since the Sun, Venus, Moon, and October 23rd cycle of that eclipse was that was a turn when the internet kind of won. And then all the TV networks and all the things, they've all shifted everything. They've all been buying each other out. Fox just got bought out, by ABC and because everybody's turning to YouTube TV just became live, right? Everybody's gonna come back to the old way. And they're basically phasing out YouTubers and they're basically gonna bring it back to the way it was in the new system. It just took a long time because especially with Jupiter, Saturn coming into Aquarius, that's gonna be a whole new set of what's poppy and trendy and all that stuff, and the internet's gonna come into a completion point in a way, and a new start. And so Gary Vee says it very well. He says, any independent social media person right now without a platform and a business built off it, and is doing things, and actually has a corporation, and is actually creating products, and is actually doing it, is gonna be a nobody, and is gonna be gone, and gonna have to go get a 9-to-5 in about 2 years. So I think that there's that, if it doesn't have substance, if you're not creating in an e-commerce environment that actually is creating products and creating actually things that is all the time, like in always people's face and always media, and also doing your own media and attention in the media and putting yourself out in the media and being a figure in the media. It's going back to that Saturn Pluto of control of, you're not on the list.
Even on YouTube, as a creator, they're doing so many things to make it so hard
Yeah.
to succeed. I don't even know how it would be like to start a channel right now, because it's just like everything, there's all the apocalypses and all these things, like they're really trying to squeeze people out from that kind of freedom of speech and platform. It's getting more and more challenging, I think. I
Yeah.
see what you're saying.
Is that it's all coming back to, are you on the guest list? No.
Yeah, which is kind of that Taurus attitude too, of like, like, what are you really worth here? Are you
Yeah,
on,
yeah.
It's true.
are you good enough to be on that list?
Well, it's building, it's finding out how
Yeah.
to build your client base also. It's actually like getting out there and doing it. I noticed building it on Facebook starts to build it on the YouTube. And you can do YouTube Live. I'm not sure.
We're YouTube live in this whole conversation right now.
Yeah. It's really, it's pretty easy. You just have to go through like a period where you have to wait for them to say, okay, you're actually.
How many people does it say is watching?
210.
Are we getting born?
But yeah, there are opportunities to do live videos, and so many they can get healed through it, they can get spoken to through it, like messages that are coming through are being heard and received, and the ones who are on in those moments, it reaches out to them, they don't even know how they got there, some of them. They just get there. So there's a lot of positives that are happening, and remaining focused on the positives is gonna help us transform this into a more higher vibration, so that healing is like instant.
Does that also breed for us in this Uranus Taurus to create our own outside of that norm? Because if we're talking about structures breaking down, if we so relying on YouTube and we're seeing YouTube taking this direction, that calls us to go for this direction, correct?
I think what it is.
Or like doing like the high vibe and
I think what it is about.
Creating your own shows.
Yeah.
Well, I think what it is even higher is like, so like, let's say you look at the movie actors and you look at TV and like how for like the last 60 years it's been all about that. It's about owning that we are the ones that are the leaders in the media. So when I go on these shows, I don't like try and like act like, oh, I'm just like, some astrologer. It's like, I'm a celebrity astrologer and I'm cool and I'm hip and I go on this show and I do this and I do this and I do this, and it's like using your magic to actually put it on the same level as just like an astrologer is a celebrity, like it was. Like Nostradamus was. Like Nostradamus is one of the kings and the queens, and Catherine used to, hey, what's going on, man? And was part of the society in a way as being, as I will use Saturn, elite, right? L, So it's about kind of like putting, instead of separating or finding a new platform in weird ways, it's kind of like who's gonna go into it, into the matrix and change it and show that they're Neo and be like, motherfuckers, I'm Neo, bitch. And that's it. And so I don't think it's about like running to the hills or running away. I think it's about showing up in the same fashion as them. Showing up is your business like ABC. That's what we're doing here with High Vibe. Like we're showing up with like apps and Apple TV and Roku and studios and doing it, but with the way that the light work is supposed to be done, instead of like running to the hills and doing it, trying to be different than everybody else and trying to fuck the networks and da-da-da-da. It's like, oh, like, no, it's like, let's just go be the next network.
Yeah. Infiltration and integration.
You know what I mean?
Look at all the people who've created their own studios now. There's tons of that now. They're owning it. They're leading, they're not relying on the big studios anymore. They've created the studio, even in the movie industry.
Yeah.
And so they're doing it like Tyler Perry. He's got like the biggest studio built.
In Atlanta, right?
Right, Atlanta, yeah. And he started off like homeless.
Yeah.
He's got quite the story.
Well,
and to address your thing with getting out there on YouTube and other platforms, there are groups that are basically taking unre-signed material, so they can just play like old comedy or something that people are like, oh my god, I've never seen this, and that's like taking that 5 seconds, 20 seconds, 2 minutes, that you might wanna, use to have something new to show them. So there's a lot of like different entities that are kind of plugging different media that does stop those gaps, does control who you get to see, what you get to see.
Yeah, and then collaboration is, I would say, top thing.
I think that you make like such a great point about, like even what you're doing, when you're going on all of these, major networks and different things. And something definitely I feel strongly about that would be a really positive movement across the board in all of the spiritualist community, because I feel like there's been so much polarization and so much separation, and I agree, it's like not the best way to really spark change. And so definitely I've seen that even within, just like the holistic world and natural approach versus like pharmaceuticals and hospitals and all that industry. And there's just such a gap and divide, and it's like this side criticizes this side and this side criticizes this side, but really the best way is for that integration. If you want to spark change, is bring about awareness within the system. Going, and so when it comes to mental health, when I talk to different people, is I'm not anti-doctors or anti-meds, and I'll go with clients to see their psychiatrist, and like it's about not necessarily being all hippie and holistic or all doctors and hospitals and pharmaceuticals. It's like having like bridging that gap. And so I think that's the best way for people in the light worker community to really seriously spark change, is whatever your little modality or niche is, like infiltrate that and begin to create awareness and opportunity.
Yeah, I think it's about not running away to the hills.
And
Like going all in, like because the North Node's coming into Gemini next. And that is full integration into cities, into da-da-da-da-da, and I know that because I'm born with it, so that's when my return's coming. And that's gonna be at the big 2020 to 2021 point. And that's when it's like integration all the way, and the South Node will be in Sag, everyone will be like, well, I don't know, I'm just gonna leave and go on a different journey, I don't wanna deal with this. But it's like, no, it's about, you gotta like be a million different personalities and know the right people and talk to them and get them on, and that's the businesses that are gonna make it.
And the running to the hills is what kind of created all the gaps we have now. It's like the people throwing rocks at each other from across the line, and it's everyone's just gonna keep throwing rocks.
And when I mean that term, I mean it's just like it's just about like separating from stepping into the matrix. It's like oh, I don't want to like be part of society, or I think that we want to change it, so we're gonna go our own way. It's like the system's already built. So it's too big to crumble. It's about infiltrating the system and being part of the system and integrating into the system. It's not that the system is bad, it's that the system is being filled with energy that is not good. So it's about replacing that energy with good energy. And that's what it is, because the clock and the gears of the system aren't bad. Like those roads that are built right now, what are we gonna just run away and then go build our own roads out in the desert, all of us right now? You wanna go get some dirt with me? Let's go outside, I need some dirt cleared. You know what I mean? Like, we don't wanna do that, and it's just too much work. So I think that there's a part about like kind of setting the trend of the message to the world, like by owning it. That's I think what Uranus and Taurus is like, hey, this is actually the reevaluation. You've thought spirituality or this modality was not valuable. It actually is valuable. And not having to like prove it, but just own it. Proving it is Virgo. Like, I want to see how the chemical freaking right? We're Neptune's in Pisces, where it's kind of like, you know already, and you don't have to know the exact chemical reason, but you know. You know not to walk into that room because you already know there's something odd behind the door. Is there a chemical understanding about that? Like maybe because of a noise and it triggers when you were a young kid. Like some psychologists could do some Virgo. Dr. Phil, very Virgo, could that way. But really, there is this ultra high sixth sense that businesses have to tap into and be part of to recreate the system and own that sixth sense in the system that is only using the five senses right now, and the sixth sense being as the guidance of the system. And that doesn't mean that it's higher or anything, it means it's the glue and the bond of all the five to bridge the gap, you know?
Well, and I appreciated you recently talking about all the different generations, and some of us, like me, who's a little older, did some heavy lifting.
Right.
And so, not that I have expectation, but I did it clearly for a mission and a reason, and I'm tired. And I had to take a little time off to get the energy again, to be part of the team, go back in there and be part of a team. So it's about teaming up. Doesn't matter how
Yeah.
old you
It's like
are,
collaboration.
doesn't matter what you look like, doesn't matter, we have a place that we can play
Yeah.
when we're vibrating in the same way, cause I'm like him, I'm all about bridging with the mainstream. It's the mainstream that also just wants, they actually wanna be opened up
Yeah.
in different ways. I mean, the royals, the famous people, they all have astrologers,
I know.
they all have intuitives and psychics they talk to, they just don't tell
I'm
anyone.
your astrologer.
Right. He's one, but he's like, there's, right,
Mhm.
they all do. So it's about also making it available, because it's such valuable stuff.
Yeah.
For like everyone, and like, I'll just, like in my little community I'm in right now, like, I just walk the streets, cause I'm an Aquarian. And like, all different ages.
I just walk the streets because I'm an Aquarius. Me.
No, I didn't say that. The whole, like, the community idea,
I
where
know.
like young people will be talking to me and I'll be like, hey, when's your birthday?
Yeah.
And they'll be like, oh man, you're real sensitive, and I'm like, you're fine, you're just picking up on, they're like, really? Like, people just wanna know,
Yeah.
and I'm not
And
an
want comfort.
astrologer, but I'm tuned into some things, you know, and I've been a therapist a long time and do ancestral work and all kinds of things, but, so, and I did a lot of heavy lifting, because I had to clear myself.
Yeah.
So I can't, to me.
Well, you guys lifted the heaviest weight.
Yeah, I can't,
Because-
but I can't do anything unless I've done it,
Of course.
right? To be the
But
sort of clear vessel.
I felt that the portal shift, and why I said it this week, was that I feel that the second waivers are ready to combine with the first waivers to do this work. I think that the second wave has done a good job to kind of get the intention of the first wave that they needed, but we ain't letting you all behind, like,
Yeah.
we're like, hey, we're bringing you up.
Need you.
Need you, and we have a lot still to learn, but now both waves together are gonna help this third wave, because if you see these third wave kids right now and all that, it's like, they're like magic kids. I don't
Yes.
even know, and they're so smart. So, I just feel like the second wave right now is finally at a point to where it's like adult enough and aware enough and like fully in,
Yeah,
and it's kind of proven they're, the ones that are in. And I feel that it was an honoring this last portal, like, of that.
yeah, cause I had a lot of struggle with that in the last couple of years, was like, where's my place?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, mission's done, I'm out. Like, it was what you talked about, it's like, but I thought, oh, I'm like, maybe from a past life, or like this, I reached that point, that all happened, I'm out. And I had to gather, I used tons of tools to work through all that, and then get back out there, cause that's what you
You're
gotta
an
do.
Aquarius, Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter's coming. If you think the mission's over, I'm here to tell you the rocket ship's coming, and you better have
Maybe a
your.
little part of me wanted to be over, yeah.
Well, yeah, because that's a lot of
No, but-
rocket weight.
Yeah, but now, we wanna
Yeah.
bring in the fun to it,
Of
we wanna
course,
bring in the.
that's why you're here,
humor,
because the
the-
Aquarius is the only one that kind of goes, hey, let's break this up and like, let's have a good time.
Yeah.
And like, come on, like, let's get over, it's not so
Lighten it
serious,
up.
it's not so serious.
But we can do some really good,
Yeah,
powerful
Oh,
work,
yeah.
cause to me, the superpower is, we're the
when it's in that
superpower.
fun place
Yeah.
too, that's when it's done the
When it's
best.
lightened up, and
Exactly.
we sneak it in with some humor, like you
Yes.
guys use, you sneak it in, and they're like, huh, and they're like having a good time, and it comes in, like, I literally, I think I said in your peace talk, I've sat in front of Buddhist monks, and they just laugh.
Yeah.
They have no, like, big wisdom to
Right.
tell you, They're totally in the present.
Because that is the
Right,
wisdom,
right.
is
Yeah, they're
is
just
the,
like, yeah, look at
is
that.
the moment of like laughing.
Exactly.
Sadhguru is
Make
always
it
cracking
fun.
And so when people, and to me, that when you think about the energetics of laughing,
Oh,
that
yeah.
release
Yeah.
and that connect, you all come together. I watch a lot of comedy, like stand-ups and all that, because that pulls up my energy. I
Yeah,
don't
it
go to
does.
bed without watching it. It's like I gotta watch a little bit of this guy that I like. It's just, I'm like, it's just, I know that I'm gonna go to bed better, you know, because I don't even watch the news, but.
Yeah, who
that's-
does?
Yeah, but that's like, once in a while I try.
Yeah, you have to kind of.
Yeah, you gotta stay with what's going on, you gotta
You
watch.
gotta
it
watch
somehow.
how the
But I don't watch Game of Thrones.
I
Yeah,
read it rather than
It's too
watch it.
violent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just.
you gotta watch how the dark sorcerers
Yes.
do their magic, so you know how to.
Yeah, but I don't know, like, I don't
You
know
gotta
all those
watch
details.
Malefic, what's the in Sleeping Beauty? What's her name?
Maleficent.
Maleficent, and how she uses her powers. You need to watch it so you know how to combat it back.
See why.
Or else you go in and you're like, uh-oh, I didn't know that she can turn into a dragon. I thought that all she could do was create some thorns. I'm screwed.
Well, I do think everything's limitless and anything's possible.
Yes.
Yeah.
And age is an illusion.
It's-
Exactly.
Time is an
Yes.
illusion.
Yes.
I had to hide the mirrors and hide the clocks, and I finally felt, I totally started to transform
Yeah,
a lot
yeah,
more.
I don't
Stop
know.
judging.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Someone asked a question in here that I'm sure somebody can answer in here too. What do highly sensitive empaths do, like ones that are living in New York?
Move out of
Clear
your
shield your
energy.
No, you don't need to move. I live in LA. It's just about learning how to.
crystals in the area.
Wow, we gotta ground. We gotta ground our energy a lot.
Crystals maybe.
So what does it do?
It's about learning to remember to do things that are outside of the spiritual realm and have fun. Like go out and have a fun time at Friday night. Go
and enjoy
go
New York.
enjoy New York.
Your life.
Like use it as like a job. Like I am turning off because you can tell the universe like I know there's another light worker on in the city right now that's gonna.
There's gotta be.
There's gotta be, and you'll feel it, and it's like I'm going, but you at least clock out for a second.
There's so much creativity.
Yeah, because most empaths get stuck in their place, and then they're only in that space. If they're carrying the walk to the walk in New York to get lunch, they're carrying like all the spiritual thing. It's like I'm doing lunch now, clocking out. Ah, what the fuck you doing for lunch, dude?
Well, it's kind of even like with the work that you've been doing too. I mean, going on the networks, like if you're really going to be able to infiltrate and integrate, it's, you just have to find a way to be able to do it. Because even with,
Yeah.
you know, going on the different networks or different things, you know, if you're on the news or publicly, because there's gonna be so many people who don't understand where you're coming from or what you're saying, and they may say things that, to some people would maybe seem ignorant or foolish or even mocking. It seems mocking of the individual who's speaking. It's like, you just gotta go, I guess, maybe to work with that energy. And so if you can't live in the city or you can't go out in a public format where you're subject to criticism, you're subject to negative energies, you're subject to all these things, then it just leaves with no other option of hermit mode. And I think most light workers have been in that place, and it gets pretty lonely and pretty sad.
Yeah,
pretty
I had
fast.
to retreat from LA to Orange County down here for 3 years before he went back to LA. I mean, I didn't stop doing my work, but I was just like, oh, I'm gonna just stop trying for more media stuff, even though I kept getting it, but it was kind of random. And then I was just like, I did the magazine, and I'm like, oh, it's time to go back to LA.
So it's a way to put up a protective egg of light from your solar all the way up, and it'll help through your heart too. Once you push past that through your throat chakra, through your crown, create an egg of light. On the outside of it, you can put Gaia or whatever it is that if you can see the energy around you, you can make it look like that. But it's gonna basically make you so they don't see you and they're not attacking you. It's like a protective shield, and it's absorbing that negativity. So they're not. It's like they're not gonna see you and be like, oh, they're gonna be like, and you can continue to function. So it's not you're not attracting them like a moth to flame.
And for me, what's helped me too is as an empath, I like to go out in nature, and then I just set the intention, always set the intention just to release, and I just say, Mother Earth, just please allow me to release all that is not
Yeah.
from my highest and greatest good. And then at the same time, I open up to receive all that is from my highest and greatest good. It's constantly getting rid of that old energy, receiving that new energy, and taking saltwater baths and stuff like that.
I take a cold shower every day, do a prayer and release everything and ask for forgiveness and reset every day. Or what was just said, I go to Malibu, like when Chiron left Pisces, I went the night of, and I said,
Awesome day.
goodbye, and it was like 2 in the morning. You know what I mean? I said, I'm glad you're gone, but I learned a lot. So I always say bye to transits, I always say bye to, like if I would like move from a place, I always cut the cord in the place, I say thank you for being a sacred space, but I also don't want any energy that's ever been in this place coming back in my life, just but nothing but positive energies, and I cut that cord and move out. And then whenever I move into a new place, set a good intention and do that. I think, yeah, it's like just learning those little things.
Another way is to do a fire pit, put the energy in there, whatever's not for your highest vibration, any energy that's not for your highest vibration, put it into the fire pit, and then again, work with the light, and whatever it is you have, like I've seen some have like hematite liquid, because I was like, oh, I was putting light, and I'm like, oh, there's hematite liquid, okay. And it's like, there's all these types of beings who are here, but putting that fire pit can put it in there.
Yeah, we did a fire pit for the November 2017 together, and it was for, I wanted everybody to watch the fire go completely out, because Saturn was leaving Sag, and I'm like, Saturn will not be in a fire sign until when it comes into Aries, and we're about to go through the hardest Saturn cycle, because it comes into its home sign for 5 to 6 years, because it's in Capricorn and Aquarius, and that's the bottom, the lead of the zodiac, and that's where Saturn's home is on both sides. And then it goes through Pisces, where then this is the end of the zodiac, so I'm like, this next 7 years is gonna be and I want people to like to also understand mutable fire, on how when they watch the fire start to, the smolders kind of change and burn out. But when we were doing it, I forgot what there was. There was somebody who said something. We were all in a circle in the group, and somebody tried to disrupt us.
A guy just
Remember?
came walking over from another fire.
He was like angry.
He just.
There was some dark being that tried to disrupt us all. All over, like there was 45 of us holding hands around the fire. Remember? Or you missed that?
Yeah, actually.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah, you went there.
You were with
Ether?
Yeah.
She's a Leo too,
But anyway, yeah, it was pretty powerful. We didn't let that energy in. And we actually laughed it off. And I think in the prayer I like said, and we won't accept people who come around and I don't know what. But we all put that intention into the fire. And a lot of it's all come true.
I think it's about not fear, like what you said a little bit earlier, and you said it today too, so it must be a really common thing. What did you say about fear? Cause it's potent. Do you remember?
If you fear, they can get to you.
Yeah.
If you don't fear, they won't.
Yeah.
So when you're scared or fearful.
And that's how you reacted to that energy.
Gives them an open
Somebody's attacking you,
It's just
somebody's
like-
hurting you, you don't wanna ever verbalize that.
Yeah, I
My
think that
guides
I
are
have no
speaking.
problem with outside approaching fear, right? Like threats or
Yeah.
stuff. Like I'm Mars Scorpio, I'll just show up and be like, I go up to people in LA that try to approach me and I just go, no. But in myself is where I have no fear.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's opposite for some people, like I have no fear in myself, I can just go to the store and I'm good, but like, oh my God, somebody's driving really close to me and they just parked next to me and I don't know if they're gonna, should I lock the cars?
Or like if you think somebody's cursed you or hexed you in some way.
Oh, I've had a lot of that.
Taking the energy of you're stronger than that they
Yeah.
cannot harm.
I had to get through a lot of violating, like masculine wanting me energy
Oh, yeah.
that were dark, like being like magicians.
Like you could feel them.
yeah, well, they were like hoping I was gay and I wasn't, and they're like into this work, and then they fucking masculine, when the masculine power wizard goes after another masculine, like, fuck, they throw, yeah, they throw like destruction on the person. You know what I mean? Like, I know like feminine feminine darkness is kind of unique and kind of trickery and stuff like that. We're kind of like a little bit more catty. Or like dark masculine, especially like if you're like I'm a heterosexual male, and like I've had multiple like people that want to collab with me, who then I collab and they're big and then they're like thinking I'm gay. I'm like, no, I'm not gay. And then next thing you know, it's like you're out and fucking bah! Like, you know, like it's like whoa, and it's violating.
Yeah, I asked her to tell it. It was like,
It's violating.
I'm not gonna lay in bed with you. And it was like, and I'm like, I gotta put all these shields up. And like try to suck on my energy. I had this like little pretend like try to change its color to like light like mine, but it had like a yellow. And it tried to put its energy, like it tried to suck up my energy, and I'm like, whoa, it's like weekend, I got dreams in me, I'm like, I didn't say that. I did not say that, but here, so shield, like be, like all of us have that ability to say no. That's not.
Yeah, I had to learn the feeling of the violation coming in. And I think it took a couple times to finally go, oh, that's what it is.
So then you could see it in their eyes, you could feel it when they're.
No, I can just feel it, like, when I'm being talked about or when it approaches me. So it'll usually approach when I'm the most relaxed back and I feel like everything's good. They know when to attack. Because it's like the last time I got attacked was at the United Astrology Conference. I was being attacked the whole event because I went against all the organizations and said they were old and they, because 2/3 of the conference, yeah. Because 2/3 of,
They do what they do.
2/3 of the conference, the speakers are of the organizations. So like you can basically never have done anything in astrology basically and be on a board and get 2 speaking spots. So there's only 1/3 that's allowed to speak, and then that 1/3 is like, I call it the old boys club, which I didn't like, because there's women on the boards, but I use that analogy, right? Like the old boys club. So they basically, you know, they don't like me. So the whole time I'm like just doing my good light work there, and actually everybody was so happy. So finally, you know, after 8 days being at the conference, it's the last night. I'm in the lobby with like probably 500 people, because there was about 3,000 people at the event, but it was like the last 500, and it's all the last of the big astrologers left, right? So we're all saying bye, because we're all leaving in the morning. And I'm like laying there like, oh, you know what, it worked out great. Everybody came up to me and was like, man, I don't know how you pulled it off after going through that stuff, but everybody loved what you did. You know, it was just all good. And that was right when some guy who was like a new fan was like, hey, just this guy that's part of the UAC board, he wants to talk to you about like what you're doing and all this stuff. I told him that you were the best event here. And I'm like, what do you mean? Because I didn't get to be there, so we threw an event across the street. And they got really pissed. Because I had flyers that were like, I was like, I'm an old school raver. I'm like, here, come out to the fucking event Saturday night, check it out. And we overpacked it. They were like, anyway, long story short, the guy came up to me and was like, you're a fraud. You know, like starts attacking me, and then after attacking me, then he goes, yeah, so like, is the wife an act? Is the wife an act? Like that, and I'm like, what? I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, dude. He's like, well, you know, like, you know, he just starts then trying to switch into like, I'm really cool, I'm good looking, da-da-da-da. Is really the wife an act? Because like, we could go hang out, you know? It's like, that is so dark energy, like attack you, build you up to try and do something, and then they're trying to I can feel his energy just trying to like sexually fucking like throw me around in whatever his little world was, and I'm like, oh my god, fuck no, and I just literally I just sent him off with like, not anger, but just like, I gotta go, dude, it was nice to speak with you, good luck with what you're doing with, and I gave him a little smart aleck remark, because he's like, so are you going up to Norwalk in 2019? And I'm like, no, I haven't been invited. He goes, oh, well, I'm a speaker there. I'm like, that's cool. And then he was like, yeah, I'm gonna be spending, when I get home, the whole entire time until May of next year. I go, you spend 1 year to do your speeches? Fucking, I'm like, I spend about, I don't even know what I'm gonna talk about when I go up there. Have a nice one, brother. That was my snark back. But anyway, I walked outside and I started crying and I started telling everyone because it was reminding me of being attacked by another gay spiritual person who's public, which I won't say his name. But you all probably know because he's on television and I've been on some stuff with him.
Medium.
How are you now?
Yeah. I don't know.
Television is definitely like, whoa, like, that was something that I had to bow out of as like a child actor, child model. It was like, they're so cruel, some of them. They
They
tell
sit
you
you
how
down in a
they look
room.
and see what they don't like about you.
Yeah.
And it's not true, and it's not nice. I wish that they could change that. So many more would be more happy about the way that they look naturally and the way that they are.
Hopefully Taurus will fix all that.
Well, actually.
Okay, cool.
I don't know, I got attacked with Uranus swearing my son by that guy. So I'm ready for anything because I have like a week left of Uranus squaring my sun right now. So I'm ready for an attack at any minute.
Hey, Kim, what is your moon and rising sign?
I'm a Leo rising and a moon in Taurus.
Just like Christopher.
Yeah, we're
You're like,
soul
he's,
brothers.
yeah, he's a Taurus with a Leo,
Sun,
and he's done my chart.
Cancer,
Awesome.
rising.
Yeah, he is.
I have his outfit.
Me too.
I love him. He's like
Thanks,
my,
today.
he's like, I told him, I said, I wake up at night, you're sleeping with me.
Exactly. I like
with
wake
my
up.
pep talk in the
I
morning.
know,
Like, I start with
exactly.
your meditation, man, you're
Exactly.
sleeping with me. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
And really nice. But I can feel his intensity too. So he's gotta get ready. The
He's about to
Taurus-
come back.
Yeah, he's gonna do he's redoing the app.
Yeah,
and
he's
and
like by the end of the month.
They wanna remind you you're being recorded.
Yeah, that's why I said no names.
Well, that's okay though.
We're not talking about,
Famous
yeah, we're talking about, yeah.
Christopher's. He's in Denver, do you know? Christopher Tucky.
I've heard
He's in
all of
Denver.
his name everywhere.
He's a great guy.
Thank you so much, you're amazing. Thank you, everyone
That's a
else.
fellow Leo, right?
Sophia, thank you guys, you guys really are beautiful channels.
Very secret. Leo, I wanna do singing over you before we go, so I can help you heal and protect you some.
Cool.
That's okay.
No problem. I'm gonna go have some tobacco. I'll be back. I'm gonna say bye to the YouTube people.
Goodbye, YouTube
Bye, people. Wow, we have a lot of people in here.
Yeah.
Bye. You guys like my outfit? Bye. Later.